Good news for Barcelona fans. Jose's Roma train keeps on rolling. Clubs chase German star, a transfer roundup, and today's Friday feels all coming up in the next few minutes. As I'm your host, Matt Froelich, you are the OneFootballers, and this is the Daily News. So first up, and finally, in a week that's been pretty bad news for Barcelona fans, there does appear to be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and that is in the fact that Ansu Fati is in talks with Barcelona about signing a new contract. Some great news. I mean, they did give him the number 10 shirt, so it makes sense that they want to keep him at the club longer than his current contract, which runs out next summer. They do have the option to extend for 2 years, but it looks as though a brand new, fresh contract is on the table with his agent, Jorge Mendes. Now, you're probably wondering, how can Barcelona offer a brand new contract? Aren't they in such financial dire straits that they can't really offer him anything more? Well, the fact is that the youngster isn't actually on the biggest contract at the moment. So they can offer him a big pay rise, and then that will take him up to pretty much the level of the rest of the squad, some of whom have taken pay cuts over the summer. Along with this, there's also set to be a new deal for Pedri in the works, and it looks as though if Barcelona can tie down those two, which they want to do, and the players want to stay at the club as well, they are starting to build for the future with two unbelievably fantastic players. Like I mentioned, it's a pretty good end to the week for Barcelona, who they and their fans haven't exactly had it easy, especially with the 3-0 humbling at home to Bayern Munich. I'm sorry that I brought it up again. Anyway, moving on and to some football from last night, as we had Europa League action and Europa Conference League action. That's right, that competition is still getting a mention. Anyway, talking of that competition, Jose Mourinho's Roma have made it 6 out of 6 at the beginning of the season with a fantastic victory last night, which saw Tammy Abraham grab his first goal for his new side. Yes, this is the Jose honeymoon period, and I'm sure in a few months' time we'll be talking about who's going to replace him at Roma. But for now, they're doing pretty well, playing some fantastic football, and with Pellegrini in the midfield as well, they're looking like a rather good team. Roma, along with a few others in the competition, like Tottenham, are probably the favourites for it because, well, they've got the biggest squad and the biggest budget with the best players, and no disrespect to the rest of the competition, but they should be winning it. As for Spurs, though, they started off with a 2-2 draw away at Rennes, who, despite the fact they sold Eduardo Camavinga to Real Madrid, who, by the way, got a goal and assist in his first 2 appearances for the club, are still a pretty good French side, so a 2-2 draw away isn't the worst result, but there are a lot of questions for Nuno Espirito Santo's side ahead of the London derby with Chelsea at the weekend. Elsewhere though, and in the Europa League, there were some really tough games, and Brendan Rodgers said his young side will learn from their mistakes, but they need to do it quickly because, well, they let a 2-goal lead slip. Yes, they were playing against Napoli. For all intents and purposes, they're pretty much a Champions League team for most of the time. They're now in the Europa League, and Victor Osimhen was at the double to help them fight back a 2-0 deficit against Brendan Rodgers' Leicester side in the night, which saw Harvey Barnes really introduce himself on the European stage. The winger's been good. Everyone who follows the Premier League knows that. But really, if he's going to be doing it on a European level, you can expect him to have a few more admiring glances from other teams over the continent. On top of this, though, West Ham deserve a massive mention, and definitely David Moyes does as well, because he, and with captain Declan Rice, who's looking phenomenal and adding loads more money to his price tag, put in a brilliant performance in a 2-0 victory over Dinamo Zagreb last night. This was the Zagreb side that beat Spurs 3-0 and knocked them out of the Europa League last season. So to go there and to comfortably win 2-0 really tells you about how David Moyes has got this West Ham side playing. As for the other British sides involved, Celtic, well, they managed to blow a 2-goal lead, and then they tried to claw it back, but it just wasn't enough as they lost 4-3 to Betis in an absolute screamer of a game. Elsewhere, there was a victory for Lyon against Rangers, and Lazio also fell to a 1-0 defeat to Galatasaray. Right then, next up, I'm back to a bit more transfer news, and it contains another player whose contract is running out at the end of the season in 27-year-old German defender Matthias Ginter. He's not necessarily one of the names that you'd throw about when you talk about the elite centre-backs in European football. Having said that, he's been very consistent for Gladbach in the last few seasons when they've been the Europa League, Champions League and the Bundesliga, and he's done very well for Germany to hold down a centre-back starting spot for Germany and do very well at the Euros, which wasn't exactly the best of tournaments for Germany, takes some doing. So, when you look at all of this profile and you take into the fact that not only Spurs but big teams such as Inter Milan, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid are interested in his signature, you pretty surely should understand that he's quite a good centre-back. Anyway, like I mentioned, his contract runs out at the end of next season, and whilst Gladbach were looking into the possibility of selling him this summer to at least get some money for him, He was obviously very busy with the Euros. They obviously didn't have a replacement lined up, and I guess they're hoping to maybe try and sign a new deal with him this season. If they can't, it looks like he'll be leaving on a free. After all he's given to the club, he probably deserves one big move. But anyway, there are a host of clubs interested in his services, and we're pretty certain that he'll be lining up for a new team come next August. But of course, there's loads of football to be played before then. Right, next up then we move to a quick roundup of the transfer news and regular news from the rest of the footballing world. And Juventus are still interested in signing a new striker in the form of Arsenal's Alexander Lacazette. I mentioned Barcelona's lost to Bayern Munich, and apparently a few of the officials in the club wanted Ronald Koeman sacked after the defeat, but no such thing will be happening, certainly not within the next few weeks. Elsewhere, Brazilian legend Dani Alves has left Sao Paulo and is currently a free agent, with talks with Flamengo ongoing. And lastly but not least, Leeds United have opened talks with their star midfielder Calvin Phillips over a brand new contract. Right then, now we come on to Friday Feels. This is where you guys leave your footballing predictions in the comment section down below, and we read out a few of the correct ones on Monday. Some huge games this weekend. And first off, I think it's going to go from bad to worse for Tottenham, as Chelsea are going to run out 2-1 winners at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Moving on, and there's a massive game in Italy as Juventus, without a win so far, take on AC Milan, and I think that run's going to continue with a 1-1 draw. And lastly, but not least, on Sunday evening, Lyon travel to PSG, and I think Lionel Messi is going to get his first goal in a PSG shirt. So that's all from me for today. Check out everything else we've got going on. Leave your Friday Feels down below, and until next time, enjoy the weekend and the football, and I will see you guys later.